Hello, everyone. It's a very beautiful Friday. Welcome to another episode of the KNUST e-Learning Center. Panels from this institution KNUST to guide us so that we can overcome the pressures that we may feel even before or after the exams. So I'll allow my guests to introduce themselves. On my extreme right is Mrs. Piazza. I've met her several times, so she needs no introduction. But well, she has to introduce herself formally to us.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. All right, so as she said, I'm Mrs. Piazza. I'm at the KNUST Counseling Center, and I'm also the counselor for College of Science.
Sure. Thank you very much, Mrs. Fiasa. Welcome. And then my immediate right is a very fine gentleman who immediately he sat down. It's like, wow, that's a nice gentleman.
Thank you very much. I am Professor James Oponchicheku. I'm the College of Health Sciences Exams Officer and also a lecturer at Faculty of Pharmacy and Pharmaceutical Sciences.
Sure, welcome. Welcome, Professor Oponchicheku. Before I move to Mrs. Fiasa, who will tell us all about how to prepare psychologically for exams, I'll start with Professor Oponchicheku. You have been in this institution for long, and I want you to take us through how the process, students may not fully understand well how KNUST exams are organized, the essentials that they need to even know. So if you can take us through the essentials they need to know in preparation for the exams.
All right, thank you. So for KNUST, we take exams very seriously. I'm sure that to get here, you would have passed through BEC, you would have done WASI to get to the university. And our exam is basically not so different from the exams we are used to. The only difference may be that here it is a serious business. One of the major risk factors in this university is exam. If a student should get him or herself in any serious problems, and even staff, it would have to do with exam to a large extent. So for us, exams is a serious business. Once exams is around, there is no playing around. You have to play by the rules, and then you can have a successful exam. We also do well to provide a conducive environment to make exam very friendly, very serene for students to have their exam. So our aim is to usually reduce the anxiety in any way that we can. So we make sure timetables are out early. We take student feedback on how to manage the timetabling so that students are comfortable. Examination venues are also chosen deliberately so that we get the best conditions for the conduct of the exam. So we do our bit as an institution to make the exam conditions favorable. But we expect our students to also know the rules, play by the rules, and then we can have a smooth conduct.
Even before we come to the rules, are there some common mistakes you find that it runs through, like over the years, you've had students repeating it?
Yeah, a lot, quite a number of them. So students, once you enter the exam hall, the only person authorized for you to communicate with is the invigilator. You cannot talk to your fellow candidate for any other thing, whether it is trivial or it is crucial. But students usually make that error. They enter exam room and they think that it's just like a lecture room. So they tend to talk to their peers, and that can land you into trouble because you have the rules don't allow you to communicate with any candidate for whatever reason. So if you need to communicate anything, you have to put up your hand and then draw the attention of the invigilator, and then you can put your case across. So that is one common mistakes a lot of students make. And then some also come in not prepared in the sense of having the necessary tools for the exam. So for example, if I'm going to the exam hall, I know that I'll need a pencil, I'll need my own pen, I'll need my eraser, I'll need my calculator for the exam. But there are times that students come and then they don't have a calculator. They encounter a question that would need a calculator, and then they are asking their peers, their other candidates, whether they can borrow. For KNUST exam, you cannot borrow anything under our rules in the exam hall, because it can also be a conduit for exam or practice. So it is something we don't encourage. So these are simple but common mistakes that students make. So they draw the attention of the invigilator. Please, I forgot my calculator. I forgot an eraser. Can I take? Invigilator says no, it is not allowed, and then anxiety kicks in. So these are some of the, on top of my head, some of the common mistakes students make, our candidates make when they enter the exam hall.
Sure. And then have you also had encounters with students who also cheat during exams and consequences? Take us through.
Okay, so I mean, that's the sociologists will say that in every society there are deviants. Whether you like it or not, you always get those characters. So, I mean, more often than not, we get students who come into the exam hall, some with foreign material, some would also hide materials in the washroom. In the course of the exam, they sneak out under the pretext of going to visit the restroom, and then they go and take a peep at whichever material they've hidden there, and then they come and continue the exam. We've had students who use sign language to communicate amongst themselves to cheat.
This is the first time I'm hearing that.
Oh yes, that's very common. We've had students who write answers or material on certain sensitive parts where invigilators are likely not to check, and then they refer to them in the course of the exam. There are some who are able to sneak in mobile phones, and then they use that to also communicate. We've also had instances where, especially the ladies, they have AirPods in their hair, in their ears, and then they hide the AirPods with their hair, with their long hair. So when they are coming in, you are likely not to draw their hair back to expose their ears. So the AirPod is there, and then they somehow communicate with people from outside to get help. So students do various things for various reasons. Some even have hidden cameras, pen that they use to take pictures of questions that they can later reproduce, and those questions become like Pasco for them. Because you know that most of our multiple choice questions, MCQs, we don't release them. After the exam, we collect them back. So a way to get the questions out there is, one of the ways is to bring in a hidden camera, take a picture of the questions, and then later reproduce and then have a Pasco, even though it is not official. So students do various things. So when the invigilator suspects that a student is involved in any of these practices, then the invigilator can alert the student of that malpractice, and then there's an incident form. The university has a form called an incident form, incident reporting form, where the student is supposed to write his or her statement. And then after, the invigilator would also write his or her statement. Then after the exam, the student will be allowed to finish the exam. After the exam, the form is then submitted to the faculty or the school exam officer, which subsequently gets to the provost of the college. And then every college has something we call a standing committee for examination malpractice. So they are mandated by our regulations to adjudicate on examination malpractice. So the two statements will be given to the committee. They would invite the students, and the students can come with representation. In some instances, they would also invite the invigilator who wrote the statement, and then they adjudicate. If at the end they find the student culpable or not, they make their recommendations, submit it to the provost. The provost forwards the recommendations to the vice chancellor, because under our regulations, the vice chancellor is the chief disciplinarian.
Okay.
So he or she is the only person that can hand down punishment or penalties to students. So that is the process. It gets to the vice chancellor. If the vice chancellor accepts the recommendations of the committee, then the student is communicated to. I've seen students being rusticated for a year, 2 years. I've seen students having some of their papers cancelled. I've seen students being officially written to be reprimanded for their more practice, and then given a warning that if subsequent more practice happens in the future, they can be dismissed. I've seen students being dismissed from the university because of exams more practice. So it happens in the various colleges across the campus.
Wow, that's quite revealing. Thank you, Prof. Chicheku. But what stood out for me is the innovative ways students have been cheating.
Yeah.
I'm quite surprised, but hold on for a bit and let's move to Mrs. Piasa. I want to understand from your perspective as a psychologist why many students struggle with anxiety during exams. I know unpreparedness can be a factor, but are there any?
All right, thank you very much. Just to add to, you asked what mistakes that it's like a trait in the examinations that are conducted. Just to add to what Prof said, I've noticed two main issues that come to my office most of the time during exams. That is forgetting the exam time table, in spite of the numerous reminders that will be given. Yeah, and it's a major thing. And the second one is forgetting to shade their index numbers on their answering sheets. And so I'm hoping that as we're speaking, this will come up and help them not fall into that kind of issues again.
Sure.
So why will people get anxious? Anxiety is a common phenomenon. Whenever you are faced with the incidence of either being evaluated or having to write a test, we call exam anxiety is also as a test anxiety. And it can come in various forms, physically, cognitively, emotionally. Yeah. Depending on the personality trait, some people have the ability to withstand adversity. And so whilst others are sweating, they will have a nice smile on their faces. Meanwhile, they are squirming beneath their skins. And so the response for various people are different. And so what would cause anxiety? The first one is what you mentioned, lack of preparation. Preparedness gives self-confidence and esteem. I mean, the positive self-image. It's like going to war. There's a way you have the necessary logistics that puts you ahead of others. And therefore, if you lack preparation and you join the what I call the last minute learners association, and you even endeavor to be an executive of such an association, then your lot is what we will be talking about now. So that's why students have all the time, beginning from the first lecture, to prepare for upcoming evaluations or examinations for that matter. And then also one thing I've encountered among students who even will prepare well is fear of failure. This can stem from past experiences, negative experiences of maybe not doing so well in a test or an exam. Even in normal social lives, you may have deviated from something. You may have not achieved a certain expectation. And that can resonate with you and become a mindset. And therefore, whenever you are in a position to render some sort of evaluation of yourself, a performance, then you realize that you remember the past and it becomes an image of what you may assume would happen, and it can blank your mind totally. So fear of failure. Another one can be the what we call personality traits. Some are fully perfectionist, high irrational standards set for self or by the family. Some come and say, I've been given a target never to get below 80. Because my father said when he was in school, he used to top. I mean, a fresher has come into a new environment. This next week, they are going to have their first tertiary sort of evaluations of what they've done so far by the last 2 months or so that they've been here. And they come with a pre-mindset of I have to be at the top. So you are not flexible, and you don't allow yourself to find your feet, more or less. And so that will cause you to freeze, even the most perfect ways of having prepared yourself. So those high expectations that are more or less untenable can cause people to be very anxious. Others will be lack of self-care. You know, we always, Prof, I just adding to what Prof, the preparations for examinations, we have health centers or health desks set up during every examination from the KNUST hospital. More or less mini clinics. And you'll be surprised the number of people that are seen during that time. I make my business to always go and collect the data every day to follow up my students who might have need extra or further medical care. And the issues that turn up there, you call them trivial, but it's very worrying.
Is it the normal stress or exams anxiety that always makes some people, like some students, fall sick during such periods? Because you find that during exam, a lot of them visit the hospital.
So anxiety in itself that doesn't make you prepare well for the exam would be stress-induced.
Okay.
Yeah, stress-induced. So issues just like, I didn't sleep well. So that's lack of self-care. And you know, students will just cram at the last minute and place their feet in water to keep awake, drinking a lot of things that they shouldn't take. And some will come on an empty stomach and all that. What he meant by coming into an examination room without your logistics, your stationery. I mean, who would go to war without forgetting your weapons? But you'll be surprised that they come without them, because they just saw that it was time to just skip and run. And so these lack of self-care, lack of preparation, fear, and some personality issues can be basis for anxiety during exams. Let me also add that academic difficulties, learning skills or learning approaches that some students have may cause them not to prepare well for exams. So for example, people are used to learning by themselves, going solo and alone. Now when you look at a university environment, you realize that your workload, reasonably and obviously, will be higher than what you used to, the demands that were on you during the SHS. And therefore we encourage that you share your burden, more or less, and move around with people and seek help when you need. People may just choose to go or stay in their way of learning, and that can impede their performance. And when exams are coming, then they are afraid, and all these things happen. So these are some of the basic causes.
Okay, including blacking out. For that one, it's of major concern to me because it got to a time when I was in senior high school, when I was writing my WASI, I think mathematics, I'm not so good with figures. I blacked out, I just saw the theory paper and then everything went blank. And then they told me I collapsed. So by the time I opened my eyes, I think I was at the assembly hall and you were like, dear Nayo, that kind of thing. So I'm just wondering, you being a psychologist, maybe you can have an answer for that. But anytime I see students writing exam and all that, I still have a flash of that memory. Is
Yeah.
there anything that causes it?
Yeah, there's a possibility of blanking out. You may not faint totally, but your mind can go totally blank. You don't remember anything. You know, the memory compartment of the person has a way of flowing. Now, when extreme agitation and nervousness set in, you cannot focus to bring recall into action. And it's like you are looking at a white wall. And the more you try to do so, and you are struggling, your mind just dissociates with you, and you just go off.
Because I was thinking it was household witches.
Oh my goodness. Leave the grandmothers alone. Let them stay somewhere. So that's what causes that. And I'm sure we'll come back to as to how to mitigate against all this.
Okay, so few days leading to exams period, any strategies to share so that we can stay focused?
All right, so spaced repetition, what we call consistent reading, or we also call it information rehearsal. It's a practice every student must have at their fingertips. That you do not leave all your notes for the last minute to learn. Spaced repetition. So you space your learning. You have a timetable, a personal one that helps you revise consistently over time. You know, the memory capacity builds itself up from sensory memory, short memory, then to long term. Anything that flashes around your eyes momentarily is at the sensory level. When you give it a bit of attention, it moves into the short-term memory compartment. The long-term one is the one that you can remember. And it takes time for the information to flow into that compartment. And what distorts it, what caused distortion in the flow of memory that was stored in the long-term compartment are distractions. When you are distracted by a lot of things, your phones, your friends, unnecessary socialization, all those things can come in. And it distorts the flow of information storage. And so when you space your learning and you do the repetition from time to time, you condition yourself to let the information flow in such ways that they have ways they are able to store well. Anything you cannot remember during an exam is not in your long-term memory compartment. That's it.
Okay.
So that's one. Active recall is another strategy that helps with minimizing anxiety and also performing well. You know, in the course of your learning, if you just looked at your sheet and read, there's so many times you find that you have dozed off. You even find yourself reading the same line over and over again. Active recall is a skill where you, after reading, or even the course of reading, you are, writing, summarizing. You are using certain scientific means, acronyms, figures, as reminders of the things you're reading. Certain questions for yourself, and then going through that. Self-testing. That's active recall. Don't just read the whole book and say you have done very well, clap for yourself and go. You must be able to recall what you have learnt and fix in the loopholes if you realize that you missed some places. That is all before exams. Another way is how you study. See, people who may use the duration. 1 hour, I'm able to sit 3 hours, and then, But sometimes these 3 hours that you've sat, you haven't done any active recall as you were reading. You just read the script. It's like reading newspapers. There's a portion that can stay in your mind as you go. You call something the Pomodoro technique, where you set yourself a time, maybe 25 minutes to 50. That's the duration that is scientifically proven. And then you have short breaks in between. You rest your brain, you come back again. You rest your brain, you come back again. Between 25 to 50 minutes. If you are able to do that consistently, your brain, it's like you are feeding it. And you give it time to breathe. Revive itself, restores energy, and come back again. So it's good that you can stay for a long time to read, But you need to give your brain intermittent breaks, and that can help you to make the retention quite a quality one.
Okay.
Yeah. And then also avoiding procrastination, that's what we have said. It's always the thief of time. Never, I will do it another time, never comes. Then also seek help. You know, these are one of the ways to also get to be going well. That's why counselors are stationed at every college. And apart from being at the counseling center at the JHAPA building, we have counselors at all colleges. And so find your counselor. If you have any problems with reading or learning, your learning approaches, and you will be helped to prepare well.
Okay, sure. So I am thinking that this is not only towards exams, but
No.
something that would improve our overall, study habits, even when we are not in the exams mode. And Mrs. Fiasa, another thing, when you step into the exams hall, is there anything to look out for? Is there a way, are there some little or petty things that we should do so that we don't find ourselves wanting psychologically?
Okay. So one of them is that get all that you need to take with you the previous evening. Get your skill set, get your logistics, everything you need before you sleep. Now you are in the exams hall. You've been advised to get there 30 minutes before time. It is something you must adhere to. We recommend that you would have slept well before coming. But we know students, what I'm saying, they say it's too ideal. My head is in the clouds to think that you can afford 5 hours sleep before coming to write an exam. We understand the pressure, but a good sleep would have helped. So you have come with all that you need. You are there 30 minutes before time. There's no pressure. You are not sweating. You are relaxed. You enter into the exam hall. All the necessary procedures are done. You sit behind your paper. The first thing I would say is that take it slowly. That anxiety to, hey, what questions are coming? Am I prepared for this? There's a bit of anxiety in everything that we do. It doesn't even have to be just as writing an exam. If you had to go and be interviewed or attend an interview, anything, that kind of performance anxiety is there. It's a little bit of stress that everybody goes through, which is okay. But you need to tell yourself, I'm prepared. So the first key I'm talking about, taking it slow, is what we call positive self-talking.
Sure.
Talk to yourself. Assure yourself. You are on top of this. You can handle this. So take it slowly. Sit down, make yourself comfortable. And then when it's time and you are allowed to begin, read through your questions and be able to scan through to notice those that you can easily attempt and those that will be a bit difficult. And when they say start work, then you begin to start with those that you can say easy or manageable. Don't start with very difficult ones. That will cause you to panic. So those are some of the things that you have to take note of. Then also write down or jot down some points that you feel will be relevant for some questions that you answer later. Sometimes in your reading, give yourself about 5 minutes to just do this. Jot down salient point that maybe when it is time to answer that question 3, you may not recall. But the moment you read, you say that those information are running through your mind, just jot them down somewhere. And then when it's time, you get there. So the technique is that start coolly with those that you can manage before you build up capacity for the other one. And then also, if you are in any difficulty, as invigilators are there, they are not there to scare you. Some feel that they are policed to come and just scare them off. But they are your friends. These are your lecturers. They have taken you through all this time. Why would they wish your downfall? They are there to help. If you have any situation that you need something, just gently put up your hand, draw their attention, and I'm sure that they will be in form of, they will give the necessary assistance for you to go through.
Sure. Thank you very much, Mrs. Piasa. And back to Prof. Chicheku. I know that during exam 2, there are some people who are usually late, as Mrs. Piasa mentioned earlier, and then some are likely to fall ill. These are circumstances, the falling ill part, it's way beyond our control. So if I happen to find myself in such a situation, missing an exam, who do I report to? Who do I go to?
All right, thank you. Those things can happen, just like you indicated. When that happens, one of the people you can talk to immediately is your exam officer or your counselor.
Okay.
So we've had a lot of support as exam officers from counselors who can follow the student's condition and then report to us. But at the end of it all, you need to present a medical report to the exam officer. It can be through the counselor, but it has to get to the exam officer. If it is not from our university hospital, then that report will be validated or verified by the Director of Health Services. Once all those documentations are done, then the system has a way to manage your condition vis-a-vis your resource with respect to your ill health condition. So there are provisions for that, but you have to follow the procedure.
Okay, sure. So I am pointing out some common things that, students may be bound to happen to students. And then another thing is, how early should I report to the exam hall? Fine. Is it that maybe if I'm very confident, I can go maybe 15 minutes early, or if I go in maybe, if I hang around the exam center 2 hours before, I can be very exhausted such that when I even enter the exam hall, everything that I've learned has already
evaporated. That's what they say.
Yeah, so I think Mrs. Piasa made mention of that. Per our regulations, you are supposed to report 30 minutes to the start of the paper. So if the paper starts at 8:30, by 8 o'clock, you are expected to be there. Because within that 30 minutes, you can be ushered in at any time. My recommendation, and I think again, Mrs. Piasa indicated that in her response earlier, it is always better to enter early and then relax. If you enter the exam hall panicking because you are late, it affects your ability to recall whatever you've learned. So it is better to enter early. But again, under our regulations, give or take, you have about 1 hour to sit for the exam, because you can report 30 minutes before the paper, and then you also have an extra 30 minutes within which you can report. So again, to be precise, if the paper starts at 8:30, I'm supposed to report at 8. I can also delay and report by 8:59.
Okay.
Yes, into the paper. You'll be allowed to write. Just that you would have lost 29 minutes. Yes. From my experience, some students are perennial latecomers. They will never come early. They are always the last people to enter. Probably that is their way of dealing with their anxiety. Some don't do so well when they come and all their mates are waiting to be ushered in. That crowd probably some way, somehow increases their anxiety. So they prefer to wait when everybody, I'm sure within 10 minutes, about 90% would have entered. Then they can come without a lot of fanfare. Come and enter and sit down. So that is entirely up to the student. But again, my recommendation is, our recommendation is enter early, relax, and then there are courses that have certain preambles. So, for example, you are taught something that requires a table. That information is open and shut. There's no way around it. You have to recall. When you enter early, you can quickly reproduce it. Write them somewhere so that you don't forget. If you get a question that requires it, fair enough. If you don't lose anything. So getting in early and then relaxing before we start gives you time to process your mind, set your thoughts aligned so that it can help you to recall, because the whole point is about being able to recall what you've learned. Again, I want to go back to a point she made about students not having enough rest. When you say that, they will tell you that there's no way I can sleep for 8 hours. That's fair enough. But if I've also seen students who have come to the exam hall and actually slept through a paper because they were so exhausted, they were so tired because they didn't sleep. They just walked into the exam hall from midnight. I mean, they studied and then never slept and came to write the exam. And they get so tired. If you are writing a 3-hour paper, after the second hour, you'll be so tired, you may sleep. You may think that, okay, let me just rest small. By the time you realize you are dreaming.
You cannot cheat your body.
Yes, so those things happen. They are real. So you have to sometimes, as an invigilator, tap the student. Hey, my friend, get up. And then they realize they were sleeping. So try and have enough rest. I would recommend that sleep before you come and write. Don't study and then no break, you come and write the exam. If you do that, what happens is that if the paper is just recall, you may be fine. See, sometimes it's just the note that has been reproduced. You can be fine. But if you get a question that requires that you think deep, synthesize your thoughts, and then answer, you will be found wanting. Because your mind will be so exhausted that it cannot give you that power. It cannot give you that the results you want. It may not be in a position to do that. So that is why getting enough rest before the paper is important. Why do students make that mistake? Because they decide not to learn early. They pack everything, and then at the last hour, they try to cramp everything. When you do that, then you cannot sleep.
And sometimes you pressure. You see your mates going to the library. Then you're like, and our day.
So start early, and then as you learn, you summarize the important points. See, the good thing about university compared to WASI or BCS, the one who stood in front of you to teach you is the one setting the questions. If you listen to them carefully in class, if you follow them, you can always predict where their interests lie, the important parts of the course to them. So you can always use that prediction to also study. Summarize your point, the important points, and those are the ones you fall on some few hours to the exam. Not to start reading the whole material. You cannot. Because something that has been given to you for 3 months in a semester, you cannot use 2 days or 3 days to study everything. So you must have started earlier, and then summarize your point so that some few days to the exam, you are only looking at those summaries because those are the important points. And that will help you to have time to relax, to rest your mind, and then go into the exam. You are likely to be successful.
Sure, thank you.
Just to add to what Prof said, these are best practices. We all did that during our days, where we have this small pocket book.
Yes.
That's your summary book. And everywhere you went, it went with you. I mean, at every point in time, you could just draw it out of your bag or your pocket. Instead of carrying those huge textbooks. At the last minute, you cannot go through everything. So when you sit and wait for shuttle, it is with you. You are waiting to enter into a place, it's with you. Excuse me, even if you are taking care of yourself privately somewhere, it is with you. You are in the queue at the hospital, it's with you. And it begins with early active recall, as I mentioned. Right from the day one, you are writing and summarizing. So by the time it is time to write exam, that's it saying. If you see the big textbooks and your huge notes, it even scares you. But this small pocket book like that, if you are holding, there's a lot of confidence in it. Yeah. And then also let me add that there's wisdom in taking care or managing your diet during the time of exams. See, your brain doesn't work just on water. It needs energy to do all the activities you expect it to do during the exams. You cannot abuse your mind. You cannot trivialize the energy levels it needs, the care. That is why we are hammering on rest. And as we are saying, if you started off early, you have no qualms sleeping or what your friends may be saying, the self-confidence is there because you know you have already prepared in time, ahead of time. So that's one. And then some form of exercises help. You know, don't just sit behind your book for the whole of the time, day and night. A little bit of stretching here, there. That's why we have the wellness center. You can go there, do a bit of treadmill, some 20 minutes, sweat yourself out, and there you go. Or take a jogging on the street, some brisk walking at dawn. Just refresh, because those are also ways that you maintain a healthy mind and clarity during times of recall. And do not take in unnecessary strong drinks, you know, those caffeinated drinks. And someone can come on an empty stomach and the person say, I just took Coke, I took coffee, I took this energy drink. You mess up your system. It will be better just maybe you took a fruit, some juice and all that. But those caffeinated drinks, they just mess you up, especially if you are strung up. You cannot unwind. And anxiety is escalated. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Spencer. Now back to Prof. Chichiku. You know the KNUST is moving towards computer-based exams, and that brings me to time management during exams period. We've done series of trainings as the e-learning center for first-year students, especially because they are new with this computer-based exams, and you find that there are some courses, well, which once you are taking the exams, there can be 40 minutes time or duration allotted for such a course, and then for such exams, and once the time is up, the system submits automatically. So for that, how do you manage your time? The moment you sit and you click start, the first 30 minutes, what should you quickly do? You know, I use my first 5 minutes to pray. I don't know. I think probably it helps me pass my and then the last 30 minutes too. You see when they say get ready to stop work, be wrapping up, and then you now remember, that you flagged the question and you need to go back. And then you also forget that you have only 5 minutes remaining when the system will automatically submit your exam. What do you do? How do you manage your time?
I think that there's no other way but to go through it. So the good thing about the computer-based exam, which the university's academic board has now mandated every college to move large scale. I know we've been doing some computer-based exam in the past, but now we are being mandated to upscale the exam, online exam, because our scannable machines, the ones we use to mark our objectives, the paper we shade, it's becoming increasingly difficult to get new ones. The old ones we have are breaking down frequently because of the workload. Student numbers are increasing, and when they break down, it's difficult to get parts because those who manufacture the machines are moving to computer. So we are not getting state-of-the-art scanners. So the solution or the future is that we should start moving to computer-based exam. So the future is at a point there will be no paper-based exam, and we are going to do everything on the computer, whether a laptop or desktop computer. So the good thing is that once you start your countdown, the time starts counting down. If it's 2 hours, you will see 1 hour 59 minutes, and then it starts counting down. Nobody will come and say, get ready to stop work, because you will know. You will know that you have 5 minutes. Now, we use the V-Class interface for our computer-based exam. And you have the ability to flag questions. Now, so once you start, you have to check on the right panel where you have the number of questions and know the number of questions you have to answer. Once I know, then I can do a quick calculation based on the time I'm given and then the number of questions. So that tells me that if I'm giving 1 hour and I have 120 questions, it means every 1 minute I have to answer two questions. So if I spend more than 1 minute on one question, then it means I am playing on
Hot
dangerous
waters.
grounds. Yes. So that's how you manage the time right from the beginning. Do that simple calculation and know how much time is dedicated to one. Now, from our observation, we've realized that computer-based exam is faster than the
Normal
paper-based.
paper.
Paper, I have to read and then go to my scannable and shade. So that would take some time, the two. But the computer, I read, I click, I move. So the computer is faster. So examiners are recommended to increase the number of questions. So if paper-based for a particular course, I was answering 60 questions in 1 hour, you cannot do same for computer. If you do that, students will finish way ahead of time because it's faster. So for that, we recommend that you either double it or add half. So if it's 60, do 60 plus 30. Or best case scenario, do 180. So that, no, 120, because it's 60 questions, 120. So that instead of using 1 minute to answer one question, this time you are using 1 minute to answer 2 questions. Okay. So you need to do that calculation and then monitor your time vis-a-vis the number of questions you are doing. And then if you find a question where you would need a lot of time, you are not sure, flag it. Now, don't flag too many questions. If you do, at the end, you will come back and it's like you are starting all over again. So the ones you are sure, you don't flag it because you know for this one, I am 100% sure it's correct. You move on. If you flag too many questions, then you are in trouble. So you should be able to flag relatively small number so that at the end you can come back and go straight to those questions and then spend some time to find the correct answer to those questions. But even with that, choose an answer. Don't leave a question unanswered and move on. You make a choice. If you are not sure, flag it and then move. Because if you don't, and then at the end, you don't have time. So the online exam is such that you can submit yourself if you are done. Or when the time runs to 0, the clock runs out, the system will automatically submit. And because it's MCQs, most of our exams, you are not penalized for a wrong answer. Make a choice. After all, it's 25% chance of getting it right. So make that choice. If you are not sure, flag it. Move on. When you get to your 120th question, which is the last question, come back and then attack the questions you flagged. Whether you would get new information from your memory to either change the answer you previously chose or maintain it. So when you do that, I'm sure you'll be able to manage the time well. But if you are answering 120 and at the end you flag more than 60, that is a recipe for disaster. What it means is that you don't actually have the course material in your memory. That is why every question is a problem. But if you have the course material in memory, if you've gone through the system we've espoused, and then maybe you can struggle with 1/3, but no more than half. So don't flag every question. Flag the ones that you are not very sure. But even that, answer and move on. And then later come whether you would change or you would continue. Now, one of the advantages of the computer-based exam is it's also helping us to reduce exam cheating. Because if I sit close to you, it is likely my questions are not the same as yours. My number 1 may be your number 60. And even if my number 1 is your 60, when you get to your 60, if my answer was E, your answer may be D. But the system shuffles the questions and also the options. All right. So if you try to take a peep from the left or from the right, you are in trouble. So what I always tell my students is, you can look above. For that's where we all look when we are in business for help. It is either above or straightforward. If you look to your left or to your right, you will fall into a ditch. So and then so there are two scenarios. Either my question 1 may appear in yours as a different question number, or my question 1 may not even be part of your questions entirely. Because if I have a bank of about 1,000 questions and the computer is selecting 120 questions from this 1,000 questions, then the probability that I can get 5 people getting different 120 questions is plausible. It's possible. So that is the good thing about the computer-based exam. And now I don't know if you are aware, the academic board also introduced something we call the bring your own device, BYOD policy, where the students are allowed to bring in their own laptops, and then we can administer the exam on their laptops.
Can they not Google their
Yes, so the system works offline. We don't use internet. And then we also use a special browser called the Safe Exam Browser, which once you launch, you can't do any other thing.
Oh.
Yes, so once you launch that Safe browser, which you don't do yourself, the system is such that you get to a point, you click, and then it launches it from your computer, but you must have had it installed on your laptop. It launches it, and then you can't do anything until you finish the exam and then exited that browser. So that fear is minimized. Yeah, I wouldn't say taken away, but for now it's minimized. So, and we've not had any bad experience or any adverse experience with that. So that is the tool we are using. Once you launch it, you can't do anything. And because there's no internet, it also makes it difficult for you to do any other thing. If you want to exit that browser, you will require a password that only the invigilator or the examiner knows. So it is very difficult to exit that. So that's the strategy we are doing. So this semester, all colleges are supposed to carry out a pilot with the bring your own device. My college started this week. So we did Tuesday, we did Thursday, just yesterday. The second one was successful. So next week, from Monday to Friday, the exam, we are using our nursing students, nursing and midwifery students as a pilot to run the bring your own device the whole week. And then we hope that with that end of semester we can scale up. But the other thing is that every college is supposed to buy laptops. I think this year every college is buying 30, some are buying 30, some are buying 50, so that every year we keep buying. So in 2, 3, 4 years, each college may have a laptop population of maybe 200. And then they can set them up in a room, a classroom, normal classroom, and then students can just come and write. Because the computer population in our ICT labs, as we speak, are not enough, looking at the student numbers.
Yeah.
So the interim measure is to use the BYOD, bring your own device, to indirectly increase the computer population. Then we can still have our computer-based exam. So the phenomenon of after exam, I can't find scannable sheet, machine is broken down, we come back, will be a thing of the past.
Sure.
Because the results are always accessible. You can always download it from the archive after the exam and then send it to the examiners.
Okay, and then I'm looking at support services for even the first year students. Some of them, this may be their first time taking a mid-semester exams, and are there any revision groups or like resources, study resources that are available to them that they can take advantage of, that they may not have so much knowledge that it's on campus?
Yeah, so I think in that sense, our student associations are doing a lot. I can speak of my college's various student associations.
Okay.
Most of them have what we call academic boards. They call it academic committee or academic board. I don't know about the other colleges, but I want to believe they also have. So they help their colleagues in first year, freshmen. They give them materials. They have engagements with them, how to get study groups, how to study for a particular lecturer. Okay, because they know them, they are seniors, they know how lecturers set their questions. So they've been helpful in that regard. The faculties also extend library services close to exam to run late in the night so that students can get enough space and then conditions to learn further into the evening. And then the exams officers also periodically visit the students and orient them. We know we do orientation at the beginning, but
Yes.
it will interest you to know that by close to exam, most of them had forgotten most of the things they were told. So we go there to refresh their memory, to remind them of the things we've already told them. so that those who might have missed it would also be acquainted with that. So these are the things we do. And then for the computer base, there are a lot of video tutorials that they share on platforms so that students can acquaint themselves with the process. And we also have dummy exam setup that at your own convenience you can go to any ICT lab and then run yourself through the process to get ready.
Okay, sure.
Just
Thank you
to add to
very
the
much.
resources, one of the resources is also counseling services.
Yes. Sure.
Yes, recently we ran study skills seminar, academic life seminar for all freshmen at the Great Hall, where we had quite an impressive attendance from freshmen. So in the midst of all this, and beside all this, tutoring, what you mentioned about the association, they're doing a great job. In my college, the same thing happens, where they offer some help, tutorials to those who are having some academic challenges. But never forget that counseling services are available at your doorstep, at your college, at the counseling center. And we have skilled helpers who are senior members who have gone through training from the counseling center, and they have the basics of counseling tips to help you manage any uncertainties and nervousness and anxieties that you may have. And run to your counselor's office when you are not just before exam, but even through the course of the journey. Seek support, seek help. Now, I also want to say that, look, it may happen that you, as in spite of all this that we say, you are prepared well, you're on top of everything, but our bodies are dynamic. Anything can just flip, and what you don't expect may happen. We have accommodations for anxiety episodes when you are in exams. Just let your vigilator know what is happening to you. It can swiftly help you. As I said, there are health desks that are set up. The counselors' offices are always on high alert. We have couches in our rooms for you to come and do some relaxation techniques and just set you back on your feet. So for our freshmen, don't panic. Yeah, just keep your head cool. This may be your first experience. And for those who are already in the soup, there's not, you never get used to it. But when it does happen, just let your vigilator know what is happening. Help is just available for you to continue. If you have to discontinue the writing of the exams, there's always opportunity to. Something will be done so that you don't really lose it all together. So I just wanted to add that one.
Okay, sure. Prof. Chichiku, your final words, all too soon. We are nearing the end of the conversation. It saddens me because I wish that we could continue. Your final words before we leave.
Final words, I would want to encourage students, especially the freshmen, that, exams is not a monster. Once you prepare well, you'll be fine. So there's nothing to fear. Anxiety, you can never take away. But let's be calm and then deal with it better. If you think that it is getting out of control, then run to your counselor for additional help. And then also to make the point that we take examination malpractice very seriously. We don't joke with that. So, and I'm sure by now students are, the freshmen, I don't know if they've been given the student guide. They should read.
It's on their AMAP.
AMAP, yes. So they have access to that. They should read and then know the regulations of our exams and then the penalties associated with any infraction. Again, if you flout them, you will be punished. So they should have that at the back of your mind. But nevertheless, they should be calm. They should just study hard. As for the study, there's no way around that. You have to sit and study. Once you do that, I'm sure they'll be fine.
Sure. And Mrs. Piazza.
Okay, so we want to say that you mean so much to us, our students. You are the reason why the university even exists in the first place. And so all these are just to give you the assurance that you got this. We are there for you to help you go through all this. All these expositions are to give you first-hand information as to how to overcome every anxiety that you may experience or expect to. So all that I would say is that, look, develop a consistent routine of learning. Start early. And then also prioritize self-care. Seek support from your lecturers, from your TAs in the course of academic journey. Don't wait till last minute. And above all, when you don't remember anything that we have said, remember that counselors are available. At the J. Harper building, we have offices there, and every college also have a counselor attached. That's one of the areas you must find a door you must always find ready to enter. All across the university, we have posted our hotlines, the contact numbers of all counselors on notice boards of the associations and vantage points. If you are not so sure, go to J. Harper building and just walk into the counselor secretariat. Our head of KCC, Mrs. Victoria J, and her staff, we are always ready to give a hand when the journey becomes tough. I want to share one of our hotlines, if you don't mind.
Oh, sure.
So that just in case you missed it, you can get it right from me. So I'm giving 2 lines. The first one is 050 644 9747. 050 644 9747. And the second one is 059 439 9772. 059 439 9772.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you very much, my 2 esteemed guests, Professor Chichiku and then Mrs. Bernice Piasa. I believe you've heard a lot. I wished this conversation will continue, but well, unfortunately, time is running. We were given 40 minutes, and it seems we've exceeded that. So that should tell you how this conversation is of interest to me as a moderator, and even to you who is watching me from the comfort of your home or your hostel. But what I can tell you is that you have to stay calm, be prepared, and be focused because you are definitely going to do well in your exam. And I'll take one quote from Mrs. Piazza where she says that don't become an executive member of the late last-minute learners association. we wouldn't want you failing your exams. I mean, absolutely not. But all the best in your exams. My name is Mona Lisa Frimpong, and I have been your moderator. All the best in your exams. Once again, God bless you.
Amen.
Can we breathe?